Hi guys, so the heads of the farming sector appeared at the Environment Select Committee where they gave evidence of the problems Brexit is causing to their industry. It has been a number of months now and the sector has been pleading with the government to ease restrictions on the immigration rules in order to allow farming to get hold of the staff it needs. The heads of industry made some suggestions as to what should be done when it comes to visas for foreign workers. They believe permissions based on months is too short and should instead allow workers to stay for, say, years. However, they also had some strong words for the government.
Okay. Why can't the government look further afield than November? We should be looking at November 2022, 23 and 25. There's no long-term plan here. It's all done last minute. And from our sector, there is either government proactive or reactive. The government's nothing. They're just ignoring us. We're just ignored.
The government is nothing. We're being ignored. And we've heard this message before from industry, that they put forward a proposal and the response from Boris Johnson's government is nothing, or just worse, to say, shut up and deal with it yourself.
Right, we'll make sure you're not ignored any longer, exactly. But no, it's fair point.
Yeah. I mean, just to finish, Chair, if I can, on this sector, so we talked about, and a lot of it has been covered, but so, I mean, is there anything else that the government should be doing to resolve the labour shortage? I mean, we've talked about a lot here, but is there anything other specifics that we haven't already touched on that the government could be doing?
I think it needs a coordinated plan, just what my colleagues have been saying. There's lots of bits, and I think it's time that somebody sat down and brought it all together. Here's a coordinated, long-term plan for the whole of the food sector, so that we can do exactly what we need to do, produce British food, build Britain better.
You'd like to see the Minister come forward with that, basically?
Absolutely.
At the beginning of July, Julian, we coordinated the whole of the food farm-to-fork supply chain. So downstream, upstream, including HGV, the haulage sector, the hospitality sector, in our Grant Thornton report. That identified 500,000 vacancies out of 4.2 million jobs. Now, we focus very much on a farm-level labour here, but there's a whole supply chain responsible for getting food from farm to fork and the products onto farm in the first place. There are shortages right the way across that supply chain, and that's why we put forward the COVID recovery visa, because we have got this displacement of these 1.4 million workers, and we need to look at what is long-term, what's the long-term problem, what can training and skills, how can we replace some of the need for immigration? That will never be done immediately. And let's look at this pragmatically, put a solution in place so we don't go off the cliff edge, and then look at what long-term solutions are required. And I still believe now that we are in a very, very difficult position in terms of the cliff edge that we talked about earlier on. We are still very near the cliff edge. The supply chain could break down at any moment.
The supply chain could break down at any moment. And we've heard this before. Not that I'm criticizing what he's saying, he's telling the truth. He knows what he's talking about. But it's continually ignored by the government. The government's response to all of this is, fix the problem yourself. We have put in these barriers, you have to work your way around them.
And the focus today is on Christmas, but I think that's a slight distraction as to how precarious the whole supply chain is at this moment in time.
And I think there are unforeseen consequences of all of this, and it was interesting. I read a headline in the Eye yesterday, but I'd been told 3 weeks ago by one of the Labour providers he's down 300 people in terms of registrations out of 800, so he's got a pool of 500 instead of 8. But the most interesting thing he said to me was, and all my bus drivers are leaving to become HGV drivers because they're getting more money. I've got nobody to drive the people to the plants, even if I have the people.
Oh my God. So, I don't know if you understood, but the companies have the staff now, and they're like, okay, we have the staff. We're able to deal with the size of the work. We're able to deal with the shortages. We're able to deal with all of this. But now we can't actually get the staff to the plants because the bus drivers have become heavy goods vehicle drivers because they're being paid more to drive heavy goods vehicles. So, as I've pointed out before on numerous occasions, the heavy goods vehicle driver shortage is just one part of the problem. There are shortages at almost every stage of the supply chain. And they raised it here from farm to fork. There are shortages. So you can plug the gap in one section, but it will create problems later on, or it will not resolve the problem of the rest of the chain.
So there are all these unintended consequences that, of course, nobody could have really foreseen, but we need to have a plan that allows us flexibility and be able to build a contingency so that we're not left stranded.
But once again, the people who are going to leave you stranded are the Conservative Party and Boris Johnson's government. They will leave you stranded. They have left you stranded so far. I've said before, they're not interested in fixing these problems. It's always about leaving the responsibility to industry. We've seen it at the beginning of the year, where companies were told, just set up in the European Union. You have shortages, hire British people. But we can't hire British people because we need to train them up. There aren't British people in the area to work in these industries. And the point that he raised here about having to ship people or to transport people from towns or villages to the plants, many of these plants are far from towns and villages. So you need buses to transport them. And if you don't have the drivers, then the workers can't get to the plant. And a lot of people don't want to live far away from their place of work. So you're going to have to find people from further afield. You're going to have to pay them more. And of course, this feeds into the whole consequences of all of this. Higher prices. And they also talked about this in the committee. So the Brexiteer solution is let business sort it out. We have created these barriers. None of these barriers were actually necessary. This is the consequence of the type of Brexit that Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, Jacob Rees-Mogg and Dominic Cummings wanted. And instead of taking a step back, taking a pragmatic approach and saying, look, we need to fix this. These industries are close to the cliff edge. Let's undo the damage that we have wrought on the country. Let's bring in new measures to allow more workers to appear in the country, to work in Britain. As we've heard from the committee here, they're saying, not months, but years, up to 2025 could be a solution to a visa system that allows people into the country up to the year 2025. That's an improvement over 3 months. That's a huge improvement over kicking people out on Christmas Eve. Is it enough? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?